It feels that way. Feels like 10, whatever, COVID. I launched it at the start of COVID.
Wow.
I know.
Well, that's crazy. A good time to launch, I think, right? Because people are at home and you can find people to interview.
It was, yes.
Not traveling.
Totally. It was good for me. Yeah. And that was thanks to your buddies, Jay, the podcast guys that I learned, are the podcast hammer. Everybody else was the podcast nail. But they talked to me like, you should have a podcast. And I was like, I should. You're right. I should.
Oh, that was Doug Strickland?
Yes, Doug Strickland. Yes.
You did. Oh.
Totally. Oh, no. Falling down.
What?
It just fell on my head.
Oh. Okay.
Really wants to be more prominently in the picture. Anyways, it's perfect. I'm so excited to have you guys. Will, any questions for me? I know that you guys are pros at this, but we should probably hit record out of respect for your time. And
I did hit record. We're
Oh, perfect. We're already recording.
Yes.
So are you going to send me the recording? Is that how that works?
I'll just share it with you, I guess, is the easiest, because every time we've done it where we give somebody else permission, there's some funky weird thing happens. This will get you all the 5 different files that you can do whatever you want. I'll send them by a Dropbox.
Totally.
It's a recording from there or from here?
Neither. Goes recording onto the cloud.
Yeah.
But will it be that picture that's recording or this picture?
It'll record all of it.
Okay.
Yeah. So whoever's talking.
Yeah. All right. It's fine.
Right. Technology. I know. It's so amazing. All right. Well, I thank you for doing the recording, and we'll just trust that it's all going to go very nicely to the cloud and stay there.
Thank you for the shirt, by the way. I wanted to make sure and wear this today.
Oh my gosh. I love
That's why I thought, well, if it were on video, the dog.
Right.
That's great. And if we're not, I'll just let you know when I'm wearing it. So
it's so cute. Well, I'm so glad that we get to have it be on video. Is the dog going to come join you, Lou?
Well, so Lou, go. Lou, go. There's a couple of pillows in here which our dog loves to just snuggle. Like isn't that weird? He rolls, like rubs his body against them and pushes his nose in them, and that's all he does with them. It's
like they're super soft, like a little cuddly.
Kind of.
They're velvety with this rub thing on.
Oh.
And I think he just loves them. He
just feels good.
He goes right for those pillows.
That's so cute.
All right,
he's tactile.
Move over that way just a little bit, so we're a little bit centered.
Okay.
And then we'll see how we make it. Okay.
There we go.
No, we don't have any questions. We're an open book. We've done a couple of these in the last little while that have done really, really well for us, like the Third Wave podcast. We had 2 or 3 couples just on a couple of nights ago that had traveled from the US to come and do it. So we just want to talk about it more often, and we want to talk about it more in entrepreneurial communities so that people have more flexibility to participate. So we deeply appreciate this.
Totally. Well, and I was going to say, what are your primary goals to make sure that we hit those buttons? Because I know you are doing both the connection experience for couples, and now also I've seen stuff about the individual experiences, right?
Yes. And there's also this thing we invented called the couple's journey, which is a combination of an individual journey that then ends together for the couple, aimed at couples who are not quite ready for, leaping into, say, intimacy and sensuality and those sorts of things. So
I think primarily we'll talk about the couples work, so it doesn't get too diluted, and fell into doing the individual work mostly with the people already in our couples community.
Okay.
So we want to advertise it to everybody to come do an individual.
Got it.
They're way more. I just think the couples work is more where we're headed and what we're looking to put out there. So yeah.
Perfect. And that sounds great. Anything off limits that you don't want me to ask or be curious about or bring up or whatever?
You can ask Cori about like where she buys her drugs and how she can deliver them to you in person.
Oh my God.
So if you asked her that, she would totally appreciate that.
So
question.
Heather, I said to Jay this morning, you know what? I love what we're doing, and I'm excited about it. And I'm like, I'm just really jacked about it, but I still have this, anxiety, low level anxiety because it's highly illegal. So there's that, I wish that wasn't part of it, but
Yeah.
so there
Well,
are.
and we should separately talk about that. I actually got started a few months ago trying to draft like a waiver for you guys, and I was doing a bunch of research, and I don't know if you have something in place already, but like obviously in the States, there are certain states that are already moving towards legalization of, certain number of these drugs for therapeutic purposes. And I think it will continue. I mean, I think that's where we're headed across the board.
It'll continue, but there will be levels and stages, and it will just be for therapists initially, like but we do use an informed consent currently with our clients.
But it's weak. I mean, so I would love to talk with you about that afterwards.
Okay.
It's been on our brain to talk with you about it, so that would be fantastic.
Totally. Well, it's been on my list as well. Okay. So we won't talk about that specifically. Let's focus on, the experience, your own journey, like whatever feels right to talk about. And we can, not talk about sourcing and some of the, the sticky stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we're fine to say is, listen, one of the most important things in the universe to us is safe supply, and we have a lab that's fairly safe, but that's all we say, nothing more, nothing less. So that's as specific and as nebulous as we can be, all rolled into one. Totally.
I get it. Okay. Well, sounds good. If you guys are ready, let's jump in.
Okay. We are. We're ready.
Alrighty. And then out of respect for your time, how much time, because I know we took a little bit to get started, how much time do you have for this?
You have to be out at 12:20.
Yeah, like I have at 12:30, but I got a little bit to get ready for it. So if we're like 12:15.
12:15, totally. We can aim for that at the latest.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep. No, that sounds great. And then you'll know that I'm wrapping up when I start to ask questions like, where do you guys show up online? How would you like for people to connect with you? Do you want that to be through social media, whatever? And you can drop links, you can let people know where to find you, kind of direct traffic. And then I generally will ask like one, takeaway question, kind of action step thing at the end so that you can direct people any which way you want to as well there.
Beautiful.
Whether it's a homework assignment or go find you and, join you for the introductory call or whatever it is.
Okay.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right. Okay. I'm going to let there be kind of a gap in space on the recording so that my editor can see where we actually start. So give me just a minute and then we'll get started. All righty. Hello and welcome. I am Heather Pierce Campbell, the legal website warrior, an attorney and legal coach based here in Seattle, Washington, serving online information entrepreneurs throughout the US and the world. Welcome to another episode of Guts, Grit, and Great Business. I am so excited for today's episode. You guys are in for a treat. I am bringing my dear friends and really also personal mentors today onto this episode. Welcome to Jay and Cori Fiset.
Hey.
Hello.
Thank you for having us, Heather. It's going to be exciting.
It's going to be so fun. And this is going to be a highly unusual conversation for those listening. We've never talked about that, but the timing really is so perfect. We were just talking before the episode went live about the age of the podcast. I'm sure, Jay, that you were one of my earliest invites onto the podcast. And for some reason, it has never happened. And now it's happening, which I love, honestly, and tells me like the time and the topic is really not only right, but ripe. And I really, truly believe that based on where you guys are at, based on where things are headed generally in the world, in the marketplace, in people's individual journeys and the needs that we all have to really evolve ourselves and our relationships.
Yes, the tides are turning in this particular topic.
Absolutely. And for those of you that don't know Jay and Cori Fiset, we first met, oh my gosh, this is one of my favorite stories, but it was 2017, the start of 2017. And I had received an invite from a mutual friend to one of Jay's events, JVology at the time. And Jay, I see that you're wearing your JVology. I know. I love it. And just FYI, in case it matters, the video is glitching a little bit right now.
It doesn't matter, and I will fix it.
Nope, that's okay. I know we were joking that is a necessary effect for today's episode. And by the way, if you are listening, I do hope you hop over and check out the video, which we published to YouTube. There is a beautiful background associated with their setting. I love it.
He doesn't move his foot. We're all good.
Okay, perfect. You just keep that thing frozen for 45 minutes, Jay. No problem, I'm sure. But back to how we were introduced, it was through a mutual friend that invited me to an event you were running at the time. And I've always said this, and for some reason it's always been true. Things are a clear yes or a clear no for me. There's very little in between. I didn't know you. I'd never been to one of your events. I'm not even sure we were yet connected online.
Nope,
and
there.
Yeah, it was a clear yes. And I think you joke, like, 17 months pregnant or something. I was very pregnant. It was the middle of winter. And you guys in Calgary were in the middle of like a massive snowstorm. And, I flew in. I flew hubby and son with me at the time in as well. And we were going to rent a smaller vehicle. We ended up renting a big, huge truck to get around in that storm. And it was terrific. And that was the first time that we met and that I was introduced to your work. And I've been a super fan ever since.
Ditto. I remember like in the middle of that cold snap, and you looked like birth could have happened that weekend. It's like, I admire your tenacity like you would not believe.
Well, I listened to the clear yeses, and that was a clear yes. And it's been super fun to watch your journey. If I were to do your formal bio, I'm sure it'd be very long. But for those of you listening, Jay and Cori have lived in the personal development space for quite some time. The backstory is that they're high school sweethearts and have, their own story, which I'm sure we'll hear some of today around the evolution of their relationship, as well as, your own introduction into the world of personal development and growth. I mean, I think a lot of us end up there in a variety of ways. And you guys have been in that space for quite some time and really have been leaders in that space, have led experiences and workshops and retreats and events of all kinds for both couples and individuals. And then have also
32 years for 30, like just to be clear about this, like we're dinosaurs. Like when people say, you're
not dinosaurs. I know.
5 years. It's like we're talking 32 years, 33 years, 40 graduates. Like it's been a while.
Like it's the space that you have lived in for quite some time. And then Jay has also, branched out, and Cori with him, into leading events and instruction and all kinds of support for people in the entrepreneurial space as well. And so they have lived in both spaces. They've worked with entrepreneurs, thousands of entrepreneurs over the years, and also, regular individuals on their personal development journey. There's a lot more to it than that, but I just care that people know, you guys have a heart for the work that you're doing. You have experience with not only your own journeys and the work that you've done for yourselves, but the way that you so capably guide others through the work as well. And I will say that being involved in the online entrepreneurial, internet space, for lack of a better term, the thing that I really admire about you guys is how openly you share about your own experiences. And you've always been that way. Like even from the beginning, one thing that I admired from Jay, about Jay from the start, was he's not somebody that just stands up there and just talks about the happy, shiny parts. even in business, you talked about the tough stuff and, you know, some of the falling down, really hard stuff that not everybody is willing to share about their own journeys. And so that's just something that I've always admired about you, is I feel like you get the good and the bad, meaning that it's not just all gloss. And that's, I think, so important for so many of us in choosing mentors and choosing people to, I mean, even to know and be friends with, you know? Yeah.
Well, and we joke about this, but I make more mistakes than anybody I know, because I take more risks than almost anybody I know. And I can save you a whole bunch of mistakes if you're willing to listen.
Right. And I'm a personality where, like, if I can avoid the mistakes, I would like to try. So, you know, it's a good match. I so appreciate you guys. I would love for you to shed a little more light on your journeys, you know, whatever part of it you want to share to help introduce folks who don't know you, who are perhaps hearing from you for the first time today. You know, I'd love you to share the parts of your story that you would like to share as far as how you arrived to the work that you're doing now. And I know that's a big question. There's lots of stuff in there that we can dive into.
How about I start with a little bit of the entrepreneurial stuff, and then you can sort of take it from the parallel.
Sure.
Okay. So I've been an entrepreneur since birth, frankly, in terms of, you know, buying my first bicycles, motorcycles, and cars from entrepreneurial ventures. And I love entrepreneurship, and went into that space really from the beginning.
And really quick, I'm going to pause you right there. What is it that you love about entrepreneurship?
You know, that's a really great question, but I think that part of my wiring, and years ago, I was doing a version of a mission course with someone where you had to pick 3 words that described you best. And my 3 words were learn, build, teach. And I love to learn. I'm voraciously curious about the weirdest damn things in the universe, which you'll find out more about shortly. So I'm very curious. But learning doesn't really count for me unless I can build something with it. And it's one of the reasons why we have, you know, 4 brands: Personal Best Seminars, the Creators Code, JVology, the Mastermind to Millions, and now Connected Now and Forever. I guess it's 5. Is that to learn it doesn't count unless I can build something with it. And it's the building of something that proves to me that I learned it. And then there's been this thing that has just naturally sort of evolved or followed me most of my life, is whenever I actually successfully build something, people are like, hey, how'd you do that? What'd you do that? That's a little bit weird and unusual. And it always lands in teaching. And I want to be clear about it, not because it's like, ooh, I really want to teach, but it's just been the evolution. So that I think is what I love most about entrepreneurship, is I can take a wild ass crazy thing I'm curious about, build something that actually works, and then inevitably people ask me to help them do the same or something similar.
Yeah, and having watched you now for, over 7 years, right? I can attest that, yes, you move into action very quickly. And it's been something that's been really fun to watch. Is Cori taking a big breath? Like, I
was just going to say, I think it's more fun for you to watch than it is for my dear wife, but that's okay.
Very true.
Right. But it's, you know, on the teaching side, and I can appreciate that as well, right? If you have to teach something, like it's what helps you to ensure that you yourself know it. And not everybody's able to teach. So I think that there's more to it than that. Like, I think obviously you've got a natural aptitude for teaching as well. You know, it's having been to some of your in-person events, it's a little bit of a fire hose at time, meaning that you can absorb and process a lot of information quickly and then turn it around. And not everybody can do that. And so I think that's a real gift as well, that, you know, you get to bring to those in your circle, and that, you know, people that know you get to really benefit from. So once you, got into, and let's call it your entrepreneurial journey, I'm curious if you want to share some of the twists and turns along the way in that.
I'm gonna put chapter titles to it, and if you want to dig further, feel free. I mean, we've owned and operated businesses in the restaurant, coffee space, commercial real estate, mastermind space, digital marketing space, all sorts of things.
But nothing as exciting as what we're doing now.
Nowhere near.
No, that's true. And mostly what I wanted for people to know is kind of the depth and breadth of your experience in the entrepreneurial space, right? Because we're talking to a bunch of entrepreneurs.
So let me say it this way, and this is perhaps the easiest way to say it, is that I really threw myself into, full on the personal development world at about 20, at the age of 22. I was pretty young, and it took me almost 15 years to break 7 figures in annual sales. And that was in a very difficult space of personal development and being young and blah, blah, blah. But since then, the honest goodness truth is, I can start, position, and grow and build a 7-figure business, generally speaking, in 3 to 6 months, as in any industry and those sorts of things. And I've done it in multiple industries. And it's sort of a bit of my magic trick to figure out how to do that. But here's the heart of what I'm trying to get at is that I love entrepreneurship. I love entrepreneurs. I love the creation process. I love the contribution process. And there's a little bit of a truth telling that I think you, as a lawyer, could probably see more accurately than I could for many years. But it's a tough truth and a tough pill to swallow, that most entrepreneurs, as powerful and great as they are as creators, myself included, are also thieves. And what I mean by that is that we steal resources from our family. We steal resources in terms of self-care. We steal all sorts of things out of our life and out of our world to make the creation aspect work. And, it'd be one thing if we were just borrowing it, because we never say we're going to steal. It's like, we're just borrowing. I'm just going to get the wheels on the bus of business, and then maybe
get it moving. Just get to that first benchmark. Just, achieve whatever it is that we think will bring us that stability, whatever it is that driver.
And in 6 months, we'll buy the house or go on the holiday or do the this or do the that, and it's all going to be fine. But the truth of the matter is that 6 months turns into 9 months, into 2 years, into 4 years, into 6 years. And it comes at an incredible cost for our children, for our spouses, for our health, for our family. And I'm talking now moms, dads, the other side of it. So I was guilty of that, as straight as I can say it. And that process, through a variety of different businesses, through a bunch of cool creative stuff that we could again sing the praises of, there was a dark side to that, which is we started leading parallel lives. Which brings us to
2020.
And for everybody listening, we're all flashing back to 2020 and all of the gifts that it brought. So many gifts.
Actually, can I tweak that for a second? So 2020 was when the shit hit the fan of parallel lives, but we really started leading parallel lives in about 2010. I started traveling to the US. I was doing much more in the digital space. There was more and more distance between us, but shit hit the fan in 2020, and not for the regular reason of it, but for our reason.
It was a slow, it wasn't, and many relationships, like we didn't fight. We didn't have, we were just each doing our own thing. Like we just had our youngest come home. He was born in 2010. I was going through periods of what we've come to see now is depression, and then coming out. He's traveling all the time. There was a lot of resentment building up. We were, and we were having trouble talking about it. We were having trouble navigating it, and we were just each doing our thing and handling the mechanics of life overall quite well, and coping, and that's what we were doing. So
in that time frame, we buried three parents. We dealt with the parent with the dementia. We adopted 2 kids. We bought a new house. We sold a business landed back in our laps. We started a new business. It was like a perfect storm of shit show on wheels, which, we could just say standard entrepreneurship plus a marriage and kids and family.
Yeah. And some health issues. And so anyway, your experience, Jay, you were at the event in San Diego in end of February 2020, Heather, before the world shut down. But that is really the time when this process began. And I'll just let you quickly tell your experience, Jay, because it's how we started doing this work with couples.
So,
well, first ourselves.
Yes.
I still say, I can't believe I'm talking about this with people, because when we began this, it was like, it was just, how do we make it to our 25th anniversary, which was coming up later that year. That's where this all began.
So what transpired was simply this. We're at this event. There's a dear friend of mine and a client who's been leading psychedelic journeys using MDMA. And he's like, do you want to do this? Now, she and I had been invited 5 years prior by 3 different places. And we were always just like, no, we don't do chemicals. We're not doing that crazy stuff. That's stupid.
No. Like, we didn't even talk about it. It was just no.
Yeah.
You know, he would come home and go, you know, there's someone, I talked to someone and they said this saved their relationship, or you think we should try it? And I'm like, no, it wasn't even on the table.
Correct.
So
anyway, we're getting into this spot of parallel lives. It's very difficult. And I'm at the spot where we got to do something and I'm willing to try. So I end up doing this journey with a mutual friend of ours. And I had an unbelievable moment of clarity, honesty, and the best way I can describe it was like a spotlight shone down on a wall that we had built between each other, and each one of the bricks in that wall was a little bit of bullshit that I had been telling about myself, about our relationship, about where we're at, and about what was going to happen in our future. And most of them basically sounded something like, well, this is what happens when you're together with somebody for 25 years. You know, you just aren't as excited about it. You know, your sex life goes down. And it's like, so just justification after bullshit justification after bullshit justification, just trying to cope with all of the stuff we were dealing with. But every single one of those bricks was a wall between us. And in a instant of, I'm going to call it pure clarity, for lack of a better word, without any blame about she did it wrong, without any blame about I did it wrong. It was just perfectly clear that that wall has to come down. I have to tell the truth. I need to start taking care of myself. And this changes now. And this is one of the things that is so powerful about psychedelics, is these powerful clarity, certain decisions then occur without the friction, without the resistance, without the story, without all those pieces. And quite literally, I got on the plane, I flew home. 24 hours from that experience, when I took MDMA the first time, I weighed 203 pounds. When I got home, 30 hours later, I weighed 193 pounds. Literally 10 pounds melted off my body from simply telling the truth. It was like boggling, like absolutely boggling. And I came home, took a couple of days to have the conversation with Cori. And I finally said, listen, here's what's going on. I saw this. I can no longer bullshit myself. I got to start taking care of myself. I'm going to lose weight. I'm going to grow my hair. I'm going to fix my teeth. And I'm going to get on with doing everything in my power to be happy. And I really hope you come with. And if you can't, and if you don't want to, that's okay too. And I understand, but I'd really love you to. And that began the reinvention and thousands of hours of conversation, and us leaning into using psychedelics as a method and a means to step outside of the box, which, by the way, was not the fastest, easiest thing in the universe to get my dear wife to say yes to.
Right. And, you know, it was what we both agreed on, is that we loved each other. It wasn't a question of, did we love each other? So that was the first thing, you know. Yes, I'm absolutely on board to figure this out, to heal this, and hopefully we can. Maybe it's too late, I don't know, but let's do it. We both were committed to that, not knowing how it was going to look, not knowing how it was going to roll out. But we got really curious, and you know, because the love was there, we just really got, you know, we said earlier about, we facilitated couples weekends and retreats for hundreds of other couples for decades. And how do we find ourselves in this spot? Like, we should know better.
Oh my goodness. Well, I think you're speaking the language. You're speaking the language, though, of so many people that really try to put in the work, that are trying their best to lead good lives, to keep it all together, to not majorly F things up. And I think so many of us think like, we should be doing better. We should have figured this out by now. We should have gotten this down. Like, what is wrong with me that I'm in this place and can't seem to figure this out?
And we both are the kind of people that we think we can figure it out. We don't ask for help easily. We don't reach out for support. We didn't go see a couples counselor or therapist. We're just like, no, this'll, we'll figure this out.
And if we can't, there's like this unfigureoutable, which is nothing could be further from the truth.
Yeah.
Now, we have a dog who's squealing out the door here. Sorry, this is probably an edit point, but he's and just
no worries.
I don't know.
I laugh, and I regularly remind people I launched this podcast at the start of COVID. I was home full time with 2 kids that did plenty of unexpected behaviors. I was going to say every day, but pretty much every hour, right? Involving starting fires, turning on sinks and closing bathroom doors and going outside to play, after clogging the sink. We had waterfalls happening in the basement, all kinds of fun surprises and treats. And so we just show up like we are, and people have had plenty fun glimpses into real life throughout the time of this podcast.
Crazy. And usually he's quite good, but I don't know, I thought he had to get out.
Yeah.
Maybe not.
Oh, Lou, we forgive you.
Grab that edge and just pull it out at the bottom. Just while we're doing this little reset, just grab the edge and pull it out so it can be. This is the thing, and pull it out.
Oh,
I can't reach that.
Thank you. Is it falling again?
There we go. Yes.
Okay. Yeah, it's kind of, well, it's not. It's pulled out there. All right. Crazy dog.
Oh, we love our dogs, though, don't we?
Okay.
Whew.
Alrighty. So
we were just at trying to get curious about it.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. And then the timing of it was meticulous, because within a week of that happening, a week to 10 days.
And this is of Jay having that first experience.
Right. Yeah. Right. So I think that was the very end of February, and it was like March 13th where the airports are closed. And so normally he's on, like he said, planes, trains, and automobiles, and headed off to the next event or whatever. And we were able to be at home, and we were able to work on us. And we're still grateful for COVID for that reason.
It's almost like it happened for us.
Because we wouldn't have had the space or time to do what we had to do. And who knows, maybe we would have figured it out, or maybe not. But COVID happening at that exact time was definitely a miracle. And I know it was difficult for many people, but we were at that moment, like for those few months, we were just so grateful to be able to just be at home with each other and have that cocoon. And every day, every night, we talked and we talked and we talked and we talked.
And began to learn more about psychedelic medicine, more about how it can help in therapy, how it can help get the amygdala offline, how it can open the heart, so that some of the conversations that we've been trying to have for 10 years, but always landed in a fight, we
were able to have them.
I understand what's going on for you more, and I actually get it in my heart, not in this judgmental. It's like, well, and you should. It was just this incredibly different experience, and literally thousands of hours of conversation and a continued recommitment that landed at a weird spot, which is we fell in love with each other again, and then ultimately got to this spot of using what we call the ritual of utilizing medicine in an intentional, strategic manner, that we landed at this spot of this is the most loved and loving we've ever been in our entire lives, which Yahoo on one side of that, like that's beautiful. And on the other side of that, we're like, oh shit. And we've been together almost our entire lives. It took this long to have this experience. Like, what the hell?
Yeah.
So that was a bit of a rub as well.
It took a while to get to the point where it happened exactly how it was supposed to. If you just trust in the divine nature of the universe, it's like, this is when this was supposed to happen. It wasn't supposed to happen 5 years before, otherwise it would have. So I think trying to surrender to that this is, we're in our 50s now, and here we are.
Well, I think
journeys every 6 weeks. It's like, we're having so much fun. We're having so much fun. We were headed out on one of our, because we set up a 6-week, like literally every 6 weeks. And we can talk about why that is, because Sarah affected and your serotonin uptake, you're to give 4 to 6 weeks in between using certain meds. So we were very careful about that, and we followed all those guidelines. But we were headed out on one of our adventures, and Jay's sister's here with the kids, and thank goodness for her too, because she basically moved in while we were figuring all this out, and would stay with the kids when we would, go. And I'm like skipping around and packing an overnight bag, and she says something to Jay, like,
no, she goes out to the car, and she comes and she leans in. It's Lynn. You know Lynn.
I know Lynn. I love Lynn.
Oh yeah. You do know Lynn.
So she leans in and she goes, "What the F have you done to her? And what is going on here?" Because we hadn't told
And this is in preparation for the first one, or this is after you've been doing it every 6 weeks?
This is probably every 6 weeks. Maybe we're 9 months in.
Okay, got it. So you've got your routine down, you've made progress, you're feeling good about this progress.
We were starting to have more fun. Like, we were starting to just really dive into the enjoyment of each other. And that's something else that we had kind of put on the sidelines when we were living our little lives. It's like, we're not having fun. We're not, like, what's fun?
Oh my gosh. I think so many of us can relate to that, like waking up and being like, wait, I thought it was supposed to be fun, at least a little bit, like at least some of the time,
we just started enjoying life again with each other and exploring that, exploring how that felt. And those 6-week adventures were key.
Can I just add to that? And what's interesting is at this stage, again, we're not really telling anyone what we're doing, because we still think it's bonkers and out there. Right. It's like we'll just
right. And I can attest to the fact, because we were in touch all of this time, like through COVID, that I didn't know that was happening in the background of your lives. Right.
Every single member of my family either outright made a comment to both of us, or made a comment to Cori about me, or to me about Cori about. It's like, man, you guys just like seem really, really happy right now. It's like, this is the happiest we've ever actually been in our entire lives. And they're like, it's COVID.
So August of 2020, we went to Vancouver, and we basically renewed our vows. We went there for our 25th wedding anniversary, and we weren't
sure we were going to make it.
We were so happy we were there. And even that whole week, we were still, having conversation, but we recommitted to each other at that moment. And that has kind of taken us on a wild ride to where we are today.
So we'll just go one more August. So this is literally a year ago. So through all that occurring, people start showing up and saying, "What are you doing? Can you help us?" And we're still at we're just trying to figure
out what can we help ourselves?
Help you do what?
and they're like, "Well, look, you guys lost 60 pounds. You look like $1 million. You seem to have a bunch of fun. Your boy, how are you happy in the middle of the world coming to an end?" Like all of this stuff, right? And then it finally came to us that there's so many couples that we would like. It's like, if so-and-so and so-and-so did this, wouldn't that make a difference for them? And then, of course, all these requests. So we decided that we're going to go and get certified. And we weren't sure we were actually going to do anything, quote, professionally with this, but we're going to get certified and at least figure out what we need to know to continue this process, to continue to do it safely, to learn and evolve, and to lean into this, psychedelic renaissance, which we didn't know there was a psychedelic renaissance going on. We just happened to fall into it.
You hadn't been in it, right? No, I get it.
So we went and got certified. That was one of the most meaningful experiences of our lives.
We were so sold on the value of what we were creating. It was almost, I'm going to say, it was almost miraculous. And that, how is this, like, we knew that is what was making the difference. So that was part of what motivated, just really wanting to learn more about how this is working and happening, and just what's going on in the world connected to and related to psychedelics, and getting more educated around it.
And good Lord, there's a lot to know.
There's
no idea.
Well, and I think, from obviously I have an outsider's perspective. I've not been living your guys' lives for the last however many years. And so from the outside, witnessing the journey and going on my own continued learning, I think, the power of what you've described and being able to, as you call it, take the amygdala offline. I think we just truly don't understand how powerful our nervous systems, our wiring, and to what level it truly, and I am choosing this word carefully, but it truly dictates what happens in our lives, our relationship, our responses to things. It's not even influences. Like, I feel like that's how strong it is that it literally dictates our responses.
Heather, you're 100% correct. And I cannot tell you how many times that we've had this conversation of, oh my God, if we knew back when we were doing the personal development courses, which by the way are incredibly powerful and meaningful and significant and created some of the greatest changes in my life. But to understand that, I'm going to call that dynamic to work on primarily the conscious and the little bit sub or unconscious, compared to the wiring of the nervous system, the amygdala being the gatekeeper, to our autonomic nervous system, like all of those pieces together is like we were just like, oh my God, if only we knew. Like, and we did good work, but we could have done great work for tens of thousands of additional people, you know?
And well, I appreciate this, Heather, but there is science to back it up.
Well, right. How many of us have just
the hippie woo psychedelic people? Like, you know, when we went to our certification, we thought there'd be a room of hippies and they'd hand us drugs. Like, we didn't know what to expect, but
which was 90% wrong.
Yeah, 90%. There was a little bit of that, but we were surrounded by therapists, counselors, psychotherapists, psychologists, psychiatrists, like in the cohort we were in. It was fascinating. I'm like, oh my God, these people, they get this and they're here to learn more, to bring it to their, you know, as a addition to their therapy. But anyway, there's so much that we've learned since about the science of just how certain psychedelics work in us and what they can create.
And may I just say this, because there might be people listening who were us 3.5 years ago. It's like, oh, those classes, like, oh, come on. And I guess my request would simply be this. First and foremost is that MDMA is currently listed as a breakthrough drug in the FDA. It's heading into phase 3 trials. It literally broke the scales by which they measure the efficacy of treatment for PTSD. They had to redo the scale because it was so effective that it blew everything else out of the water. Yeah. So this isn't opinion, this isn't conjecture, this isn't an anecdote, this is absolutely 100% proven science. And
I'll say MDMA is to the mental health, holistic health world what Ozempic is to weight loss, right? For anybody following the Ozempic or similar drug trials, and it was an accident. It was developed for an entirely different purpose. And I'm not promoting Ozempic, by the way. I'm just saying scientists, actually, I read an article on it yesterday. They still don't understand how Ozempic works. They don't understand how it does what it does. It's like 3 times more effective than any other drug ever previously developed for weight loss. And it wasn't developed for weight loss, right?
The one that was developed for diabetes?
Yes.
A different one. Yeah.
Yes. So anyways, all I'm saying is that MDMA, I feel like what little I know about it, and I have read up on like the, you know, PTSD trials and treatments and the ways that, you know, people have used it to really create tremendous breakthroughs that they have not achieved in any other way.
Well, the thing I would invite people to do is to continue to do the research exactly as you did.
Yeah.
Find a safe way to experiment with it and then make your own decision. And the reality is there are no words in the English language. There are no words in all of the conversations that we've had that can articulate the difference between having a conversation that used to poke me, hurt me, activate me, agitate me, all those sorts of things, from that space to the deepest compassion and desire to truly get and understand and know what she's feeling and thinking, and to express love in that space. And I wish there were words for that, because that's all those words are sort of like remote placeholders that suck compared to that true experience is.
Yeah. Well, and I think, you know, as I look at all of the things that, I mean, I can speak to my own journey, all of the things that I try, you know, that we collectively try in order to really achieve what I think is just simply heart opening to life, to our partners, to our children, right? Like even the workshops that you previously described, like, I feel like these are all wonderful, great things. They inch us closer. They help us see things a little bit more clearly, or try this instead of doing that, or recognizing at least like some of the patterns that we engage in because of our wiring. But they still, I wouldn't say that I've ever had one that has bonked me on the head with like feeling like I've leaped a mile instead of just a few feet.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It's funny you
Right?
say smile, because what I often will say and have said in our conversations, like, this feels like one side of the Grand Canyon to the other, like just in an
Oh.
instant. It's like boom, boom. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, like that. Oh,
Right. Well, and for anybody that wonders, like, how could that be true? Think about, like, I just had a recent experience, also a painful one. And like, let's be clear that my sisters are the closest things to me in my life, right? And out of the freaking blue, had an extraordinarily painful conversation with one of my sisters last week, to the extent that I was like, holy effing whatever, insert any number of, expletives. Yes, they're all appropriate. Like, the power of our wiring is so obvious in those circumstances, right? Even when we love, and this is not obviously an intimate, partner relationship. And I think those have the potential for even more explosives, if you will. But this is a lifelong relationship that I care a lot about. And it still went so, so poorly. Right. And I think that was just one more example of the dictation, really, that our wiring imposes on our lives.
Yeah. Yeah.
If I may use an example, so my mom hasn't had a sip of alcohol in 55 years. Doesn't take Tylenol. Won't do the blood thinners when she had her hip removed. Like, she just doesn't any sort of quote drugs, medication, and those sorts of things.
I'm not taking that shit.
Right.
Doctor's like, you need a blood thinner. You just had an operation. No, I'll be fine.
Anyway, you may well die. She goes, well, so be it. Anyway, so really anti any sort of drug medication. Same as true for my two sisters. And what's fascinating is that we're just big believers in people making their own choice. But here we are, 3.5 years later. Both of my sisters have been, in the last year, active in the psychedelic space. It has had some tremendous healing experiences, both in our relationships and in their relationships. And even mom, at 83 years old, actually coming on 84, is, you think I should try that? So to me, it's that whole piece of
discouraging there. I don't know if she should try that.
But here's the point is, if you live into it and use it as the tool, do the integration work that is necessary, it is this thing that can take you from one side of the Grand Canyon to another, and it's observable to anyone who is close to you and is paying attention.
Yeah.
And to the degree where it's like, I would never do that. It's like, can you tell me more? Because something's clearly up for you guys, and we're happy for you. And what the hell is it?
I want to just what you said about integration. So I don't want people who are like, oh, you just went every 6 weeks and did that. And it was the in between the 6 weeks that we were making these, I'd call at the time, subtle but significant changes. And it was in between each of those adventures, we were through the rewiring and everything that was going on behind the scenes. We were changing how we were with each other and how we were interacting and what our days looked like and how we were, and with our kids too. Like, it wasn't just us, but there was integration happening in between, which that the next experience was like,
including seeing a therapist, including getting another coach, including doing a whole variety of things.
Recognize that, we do have to reach out for support, and that's an important thing. And just, things that used to be like, no, why would we do that? All of a sudden we're like, of course, let's get it done. Let's go. And it became like just obvious and easier.
In flow. Resistance evaporates when you're aligned, and psychedelics help align.
And for some of the men listening, you might appreciate this. I recognized pretty close to the beginning that I was like, I was a no person. He's always the ideas. Let's try this. Let's do this. And I'd be like, yeah, no. great, or uncertain, or I need more information or whatever. But one of the commitments I made at the very beginning of our reinvention was to go from the wall of no's to being a sea of yeses. And I just made that internal commitment, like, you know what, Cori, you got to get out of your own way. You got to step out of the circle. So even if it seems a little scary or whatever, committing to being a sea of yeses in our relationship opened me up to, okay, well, yeah, let's try that. Let's do this. Let's go on this adventure. And that's the part about having more fun too. But it allowed for us to just really step into a whole new version of what our relationship could look like. And I realized how those wall of no's just were like shutting down life. And that became so clear to me. And that was one of the huge shifts I made right at the beginning.
Well, and I think, those can show up. I mean, those, we'll call it the wall of bricks, the nose, that whatever you just called it. Was it the wall of nose to sea of yeses? Wall of nose. Yeah, the bricks, the nose, like it's insidious really how life works. And that it's like, I think for so many of us, it is the analogy of like being a frog that slowly boils versus
100%.
Because, right. If any of us were dropped from our, like, if you ever had an experience in your life where you're on your own, and really that comes to mind because of a lot of phases in life where you don't have these other obligations and the weight of like real living that's weighing you down. You go from that dropped into life 20 years later. So many of us would be like held to the no, hopping right back out.
We would be spontaneously combust.
It would be so obvious, the misalignment though, right? And I think that's the trick. And it's the choice that we all have of, do we continue to kind of slip into that comfortable but disassociated living that so many of us do, or do we get the tools, ask for the help to really wake up to what it means to be a full yes in our lives and in the lives of our partners?
I want to read actually a text that I got today that from friends of ours that did our courses years and years ago. And this is the text that came this morning, not prompted or any of those sorts of things. It's just followed. It's like, I'm not sure how to thank you two enough. Our relationship has been transformed. We've experienced little miracles every day since. Truly life-changing. I repeatedly have underestimated the seriousness of our situation. When I would hear you and Cori and other people say in the fireside chat that they wouldn't have lasted another 5 years, I never believed that would have been us. However, I have been woken up to the situation. I don't think we have ever been closer than we feel right now. It's awesome. Thank you both so much. But it's exactly that.
Was just from Friday night.
That's their experience was Friday night. This was the text this morning. But
it's amazing. It really is.
It's true. Most of us in that are the frog in the pot, us included.
Yeah.
That without some way of stepping outside of what we have unconsciously created to see it, we'll be trapped there until it's just too painful, and then that's the end. Unfortunately.
Yeah. Or people just stay in that space and not realizing how great it could be. And
totally, they either stay in the space. Yeah, I think it goes one of two ways. They stay in the space and continue to slowly boil, or they get the brick in the face through some traumatic event in life that forces them to wake up and make a change, right? Not everybody gets the brick and not everybody gets the boil, but you get one of those if you don't make the choice.
100% true.
Yeah. The people are going to hear this conversation, and I think for so many, it's going to be like opening a door, just a sliver of a crack, like, right? What could be behind that door? And I think some of the highlights that I hear and that I take away from not only the conversation, but just observing your journey is, one, how do we achieve this heart opening effect? And this is clearly in your lives, in your experience, and in the experience of your clients, a major way to get there faster. And you still have to be doing the work. It is not like, because I think for so many people, they think like, oh, there's no light switch, easy path, easy button, right? That just feels wrong to think. And But I think what I'm hearing you say is like, no, it's not the easy path. It wakes you up to things and it increases that awareness, and it definitely facilitates change. And you're still doing the work. You're still doing the processing, the integration, the conversations, the time together. You don't get to skip that.
You cannot. And may I just add something? Like the science again is really clear. And this is where we just, if there's a tool, you know, like if you put a screw in the wall, don't get a hammer and don't use your thumb, right? Like those two, get the proper screwdriver. And this, you know, specifically MDMA and other empathogens and entactogens that we utilize in the connection experience. Number one, it opens the heart, the amygdala goes offline. But here's the thing that I don't think people are talking enough about, is that your degree of neuroplasticity for the next 2 to 3 weeks is as let's call it as malleable as when you were a child. And what we do in those 2 to 3 weeks, how we bring ourselves to each other, the decisions that we make, the commitments that we make, the structures and the support pieces we put in place, literally change the wiring of our brain. This isn't just like, oh, I'm going to do my affirmations and have a positive thought. This is, we're going to build a new neural network that copes with our life in a different manner. And every single time you do the ritual, you've got 2 to 3 weeks to build upon that network. And that's why the work outside of it is so important. Why, if you do it, it's this catapult forward.
Right. And how many of us, I mean, I can speak to my own experience, have literally felt in your brain like you're stuck in a rut. That is our neural, like as much as we want it to be different, right? The affirmations, the meditation, the blah, 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 blah. The list is very long, right? But you still recognize that wiring, whether it's a trigger from a child doing a particular behavior, whether it's, you know, a parent, a sister, like whatever. I think we all have lived the human experience, which is to develop these neural networks that become a freeway, and we just fly down them a bazillion times faster each time we go down that same freeway, which is the experience of life.
Well, you compare it to like the tracks when you're skiing, you know, it's just these tracks that go down the hill. And what if we were to just jump out of those tracks and make different tracks or go a different way? That's exactly what happens.
Well, I know that there's so much more we could talk about. I've got a bazillion questions floating around, right? And out of respect for your time, I want to not do that to you. I know you guys lead like an introductory call. I think it's like a fireside chat or something, right? Because I'm thinking like for folks like me that are listening, like, oh, well, what do I do if we are, let's pretend you're in a relationship and yes, you're committed to working on it, but you have different ideas of like what working on it means, or like maybe I'm open to this, but maybe my spouse is not. What, you know, what do we do? Or maybe we just need to learn more about what this could do for us and learn more about MDMA. Maybe you're a baby in the world of mind altering substances like I am. Right?
Well,
like to date, the most mind altering thing I've ever done is a glass of red wine. You know, I don't even know if that counts. It's not 5 glasses of red wine. So there are people maybe like me that are thinking like, oh, I'm really curious because my heart and my mind want to know more. And I feel so inexperienced or so out of my depth.
And that's one of the things when he came home, we watched some like that Michael Pollan Netflix.
How to Change Your Mind.
How to Change Your Mind. We watched a Goop thing, Gwyneth Paltrow one. Like we just watched some things because he knew I needed information. That's how I needed information. So yes, we do offer different ways to get that information from us about what we do.
And the easiest way and the sort of most neutral way is literally go to our website, which is theconnectionexperience.love/fireside and
dot love. You are kidding me. There's a dot love. I did not know this.
Yeah, it was like, and again, that was one of those things like that was made for us.
That is so obvious. That one is so obvious. Oh my gosh.
FAQ section. We have the fireside chats, and we ask people to explore all of that. perhaps together, so that both of you are learning about this. And then if the interest is piqued and all right, maybe this would be for us, we should probably, get a better sense of that, then we can have a one-on-one chat with you.
And there's literally a button right underneath the fireside chat says book a time to chat. And we will, and just to be clear about this, these chats are about education and match. This isn't for everyone. We don't pretend it's for everyone, but it is for a lot of folks. And our objective is to get you the information, make sure you make a decision that's aligned. If it's not with us, we have an entire network of folks that we are thrilled to refer people to, because our objective is to get medicine in the hands of people that want it and need it and will put it to good use. And there's lots of ways in which that happens. So it's an educational piece first. Start there. We will have a conversation that is aimed at answering questions and you knowing what's right for you and your partner.
And then we have an intake process as well, where we're pretty, we're very diligent about making sure it's safe for you. So we look at different, medications, health, all kinds of things in the intake process as well to make sure it's a match.
Well, and just so people listening are clear on how much care Jay and Cori put into their work in general, but also in this area, they've been certified. They have done this for years now in their own process. They've learned from some of the best in the industry. They're extraordinarily well connected. And you've heard Jay already talk about his innate drive to learn everything there is to know about a topic when he decides to dive into that topic. And so I personally know, and I've experienced in other ways, the care that you put into your trainings, the way that you shepherd people through a process. And I think that care and safety can't be underscored enough when, if you're like me, you're thinking about like, oh, I would do this, but only in the structure of somebody that I fully trust and know, is going to walk me safely through this process. And I can say without a doubt, I know that that is you guys for me, and it's, I think that can help take away so much of the fear, thank you, amygdala, that a lot of people would experience around this conversation.
Right.
It's the single most significant piece of feedback that we receive is we would never do this if it wasn't for you two. Like this would not be on the table if it wasn't for you two. That's from virtually every single one of our couples in our community, which I think we're at there's 33 or 35 couples at this stage.
Or if it's a step removed, it's like our good friends know you guys, and that's why we're here.
Totally.
So it kind of then it started branching out to people we didn't know personally, but they knew somebody we knew personally.
But still, there was that trust. Yes, that trust factor through others, which I think is it's really important. And I think that for so many of us, whether it's an opening on this topic or something else, those openings in our lives happen when we're willing to learn from those around us because of trust, because of that connection. So, I thank you guys for modeling your journey. It's been phenomenal to watch. I just adore you as humans. And I'm so excited to introduce you to hopefully new folks that will come into your circle. What I know that there's so much more, and maybe we have a part 2 to this down the road, who knows? But for folks that are listening that want to connect with you, I know you already mentioned, and we will drop your links, including any social media links. If you are open to connecting on social media, we'll drop all of those for listeners at the show notes page, which can be found at legalwebsitewarrior.com/podcast. Find Jay and Cori's episode, and you'll find everything there that you need to know. What final either takeaway or action step would you like to leave listeners with?
That's a good question. Yeah, of course.
We have started in the process with our couples saying this phrase, and this is usually when they're about to embark upon a journey or a connection experience. But I think that it applies also at the stage of exploring and seeing if something like this could work for you and your partner. And it's this, is that we ask them to invite and to expect miracles because they happen all the time. Not in a million years. What we created is so far beyond my wildest dreams and what I hoped for. when I did that first thing, is like, I'm just grasping at a straw, hoping that we're going to figure something out. I could never have dreamt that we could have gotten to the spot we got to. Like, that's just beyond my comprehension. It's a series of miracles. So if you're considering this, like, what would be the miracle that you would like to invite into yourself, into your relationship, into your home, that could really, truly, genuinely change everything?
Mm-hmm. That's a good one.
I
And
love
mine
that.
would be along those lines, just to be open to, you know, if you've tried everything, if you're feeling stuck and you're feeling in the rut and you're feeling like you're, like we said, parallel lives, just being open to exploring something outside the box, outside the norm. Perhaps that will be, you know, where the change is for you. And that openness is absolutely what saved us. I mean, had I been just a no, as we wouldn't have even, yeah. So
yeah, now what I'm visualizing is like taking one brick off of that wall of no's, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
I love that. Well, Jay and Cori, I so appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for joining me today and sharing.
Well, thank you.
You
Thanks
know,
for having us.
Oh my gosh. Well, it's, you know, it's just a really special thing to hear about somebody else's journey and the way that you guys so openly share it, you know, the good times and the bad. And I know you've seen all of it, and continue in your own learning, your own efforts and all of that, because it's never really truly an arrival point. But I just adore you guys. I so love that you're here talking about it. And I'm so excited for people that get to hear this episode.
Thank you.
Thank you for helping us share it. We deeply appreciate you, Heather.
Absolutely. We'll connect again soon.
Take care.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
All right. So I think you guys can pause the recording or do whatever you need to do on your side.
Yes, just move my